So, Callum, as well as another interesting thing, we finally get some PS5, PS4 comparison for Spider-Man Remastered. So there's this footage, and switch over to it. So yeah, it's interesting to get actual comparison footage of this remaster working in play. And so the big takeaway is the whole 60 frame per second, which is at first we're starting off with PS4 gameplay. And one thing I took away from watching this last night was it still looks amazing on PS4. Damn, this game looks awesome.
Yeah.
But on PS5,
Yeah.
of course, with that frame rate, it looks just buttery smooth.
Yeah, I think I haven't watched this yet, but I saw some of the screenshots. And I think obviously it looks great, and they've done a huge amount of work to it. But I don't know if you saw the new character model for Peter Parker is just.
What are your thoughts on that?
I just have no idea why they did that. I have no clue why that has happened, because I mean, I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, but my favorite thing about my favorite Spider-Man stories always come from when Peter Parker's a little bit older. And in the setting of the PS4 game, he's 8 years into being Spider-Man,
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so he must be like in his mid-20s,
right?
And the new model. And before I even say anything, the original model was perfect. The Peter Parker from the game was one of my favorite things about the game, like when he's not in the suit. But just because they'd finally had like a mature Peter who sort of, he knows what he's doing. And yeah, this one just looks like an 18-year-old kid again, or however old. And it just isn't going to make any sense. This guy's going to show up to teach Miles Morales. He looks like younger than him. He's meant to be doing it for 8 years.
Right.
Like, what was he, 10 when he first started being Spider? It's just, and it's just the fact that it was already established, like it's already there. And if this is the reason that, yeah, there it is. And if this is the reason that they're now charging you because they've done this much extra work, then I just wish they had just not bothered. Because yeah, it's just a bizarre choice for me, and yeah, I'm not sure why it's happened.
Yeah, because he does look younger. I think that was the main focus. So their original announcement was that they needed to find a better actual model to use that CG reference with the voice actor, so one that matched his face more accurately. But they went consciously with like a younger model of Peter Parker. So yeah, it's all the same things you hit, where he's supposed to be older, so they nailed it with that first model, but then he's now at least like 5 years he looks younger in this one. It's a bit strange, I guess. When it's all said and done, I don't care at that much. It's like, okay, I guess I'll just get used to this guy, and it's fine. It's been a while since I played it, so maybe I can try and scrub it from my memory. It's just such a kind of strange decision to change it in any way. Like, they should just kept the ball rolling, but apparently they needed to make those adjustments, but I just don't see if it was really needed.
And I mean, it's kind of like recasting a character in the second series of like a series you love, because I loved the story in Spider-Man. It was one of the real highlights of the game, and I didn't think it was going to be, and especially the ending, which I won't spoil just in case, but it was really like just well done, and really like emotional, and really sort of just a really, really great sort of well executed. So to now play Miles Morales, or even play through it again to see that same really personal scene but with a different person, it's just, I don't know, I kind of feel obliged to play it again now, which I don't want to do, but I now feel like I have to, because I now need to have this canonical Peter Parker before I jump into Miles Morales. Yeah, it's a really bizarre choice. I have no idea, why they felt they had to do that. And yeah, I'm personally not pleased with it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way, and myself, it's not a deal breaker for me, but it's just more like, hey, why did you do this? But they have their, at least
exactly,
on paper they have their reason why. But aside from the weird change in the model for Peter Parker, just seeing these two in comparison, are you more interested in playing this on PS5, seeing the new, it seems like they're showing the ray tracing tech with the reflections, which look nuts, although that could be, so kudos to Insomniac, they did a really great job with reflections already in the game. So I don't know if this is full-blown ray tracing, they're just tweaking it, but this game does have official ray tracing support, so apparently that's happening for sure. But it just seemed like in the actual gameplay I wasn't seeing that yet, but we'll actually have to and wait for Digital Foundry to like fully test it out. But I mean, it looks nuts, and I'm surprised that I was okay with it at 30. That's the thing, is like I was cool with it at 30 frames per second. At 60 it just looks even better. But I think there's games where I can go either way, but I'm not going to be mad at this 60 frame per second mode. It just looks even more awesome. You see all the animations in his body when he's swinging around. They're just way more fluid. And yeah, I cannot wait to pick this up.
Yeah. Well, I think this is the thing as well with frame rates, is you don't notice unless it's really choppy and it's like constantly changing. So if it's going from like 30 to 20 to 30 to 20 constantly, that's when you really notice it. But if it's a steady frame rate of at least 30, you won't realize, because unless you've literally just been playing a game at 140 FPS or something ridiculous, and then you've gone straight to something like that, you might. Or if they're running side by side, you definitely will. But you just won't realize. If it's a good steady frame rate, then it'll be fine. It's like Persona 5 Royal is one of the most fluid looking games I've ever played, especially with how the HUD moves and everything. And that runs at 30 FPS. I mean, I don't even have a PS4 Pro. And I remember at the time I was playing Halo Reach at 140 FPS at a higher res as well on my PC. And obviously at the time I was like, oh, this is super smooth. But then I'd go and play Persona 5 Royal on my PS4 and I wouldn't even notice the difference. I know they're very different games, but I just think people just concentrate too much on this thing. And whilst a higher frame rate is of course better, people don't need to be so like, oh, you're playing that at 30 frames a second, how can you do that?
Right.
Kind of thing. Because like you said, Spider-Man is awesome. It still is awesome on PS4, and I'm sure Miles Morales will look awesome on PS4. And but it's nice to see this become the norm for people who just have consoles or anything. It's going to be really, really cool. But in response to your question about whether or not I'm more likely to get it now, in a weird way, despite hating the new character model, that's made me want to play it more than I did, because I feel obliged to now experience this new Peter Parker. So it's kind of a weird catch-22 there, but I don't think I will play it, just because it's, as much as I love it, I think the gameplay loop itself is it gets very samey. It's nothing, groundbreaking. And whilst I didn't mind it the first time, we got a nice shot of Doc Ock's crotch there. And
in 4K.
Whilst I enjoyed it at the time, I just don't think that's something I'd want to do again. So yeah, I probably won't do it. But yeah, that Peter Parker thing is going to really annoy me.
Yeah, it's interesting, and they made that move, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's actually coming out pretty soon. We'll actually hopefully get in our hands and try it out.